Welcome to Beyond Broken Hungry. We understand the struggle of juggling your career, relationships, nutrition, fitness, and finances while trying to pursue your dreams. And, stay sane too. We're here to make that both simple and fun for you. In this podcast, we interview a variety of wellness experts to share their expertise with all of us and make this journey we call life just a little bit more balanced. We're stumbling towards wellness right alongside you and are so happy to have you with us on this journey. So, with that in mind, let's jump right in to this week's episode of Beyond Broke and Hungry.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Beyond Broke and Hungry Season 2. We are so excited to have you with us again. Wow, what a journey 2020 has been. What do you think, Ellen?
For real. So I'm happy to be in 2021. I am hoping that this year pans out to be a little less COVID focused than the last one, but we'll see. One day at a time.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting, especially because when we first started recording season 1, we had no idea that this was even that COVID was even going to be a thing, that it was going to happen, and what perfect timing did we start this podcast and start getting it out there to really just in general remind people about staying balanced. I know some people were like, wow, I know y'all didn't plan a pandemic to happen, but this really helped me get through it. And people were like binge listening or whatever, and we were getting some good feedback on our advice, and that made me feel really good. But I'm really happy that we decided for season 2 to hone in on something specific. And I'm glad that we went with nutrition, because how important is nutrition? It literally is it's the most important thing. Just period. Whether you are an Olympic lifter, or you're just starting out, or you don't work out at all, or you're a dancer, or you play sports, you're 3 years old, or you're 103 years old, your nutrition is the single most important thing that you can have balanced and have regulated and keep in control in your life. It really is. And we have about 7 interviews with mix of professionals and then just people off the street, basically, that say the exact same thing. So it's not just our opinion. Nutrition is the number one start to having a balanced and healthy diet. And obviously with everything that was going on in 2020 with COVID and lockdowns and things like that, gyms were closed for a period of time. At least in certain states they opened back up, thank God. But they were closed for a period of time. Grocery stores were weird. It was Instacart blowing up and having to do delivery groceries or pick up groceries and things like that. And I think that when things first started happening, people started to treat this like a vacation or, like a big party, where instead of focusing on let me nurture my body during this, because there's high stress. So the weight gain and things like that are just going to happen naturally because there's so much stress going on. I mean, the whole world is freaking out in a lockdown, and you're buying Fritos at the grocery store instead of there's a pandemic going on. Maybe I should buy some probiotics, stock up on vitamins and supplements, and eat vegetables. But no, the toilet paper shortages were across the country. But so there was definitely some obstacles when everything first started, and then of course it continued, and we're still it's still trailing on, and COVID is very much still here and not going away anytime soon. But what are some ways that you handled nutrition throughout COVID, from seeing all the things on Instagram and Twitter and all these different trends going on, and people partying, and people just kind of treating this like, oh, I can eat and drink whatever I want because I have to work from home, or blah, 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 blah. And obviously it really threw off routines that people might have, that it wasn't like a wake up at 5 o'clock, go to the gym, eat your breakfast, then go to work, then eat your lunch at work, have your snacks, whatever. So how did you handle the very, very abrasive changes that we had to come about with your nutrition specifically throughout COVID?
For me, I think Well, I think what a lot of us learned over the past year is that you can't plan everything. Like, there are always going to be things that come out of left field that you don't expect, no matter how prepared you think you are. And so I did my best to try and keep my life as similar as possible. But I mean, I went from working in the office in person to working from home 40 hours a week. And that was actually, I've really enjoyed that transition because first of all, it allowed me to get my dog Luna and kind of train her and have a lot more time with her to do that while she was still a puppy. But all that being said, I was trying to figure out how to not binge, but also how to not restrict myself so that I was just extra deprived, because as you were saying earlier, I really liked how you said, you know, it is a stressful time, and when it's a really stressful time, your body is going to be finding its different ways to cope, and so you need to be giving it those nutrients. But sometimes if your body is desperately craving something sweet, like, there are times that a piece of fruit is just not going to cut it, and you just need
give me
need a
my
piece of cake.
Twizzlers, give me my Mike and Ike's, like, I need that. Give me a cookie.
100%, yes. So I feel like, first of all, as it did for a lot of us, this past year it forced me to slow down and allowed me also to slow down with like my mornings, which has been really nice. And so my morning routines have kind of spread out a little bit, where I can take more time to walk the dog and read my Bible and drink my coffee. And I try to wait a little bit before having breakfast, and just to kind of make sure I have some water before everything else and all that stuff. But it's given me a little bit more of allowed me to have, I guess, more of a morning routine, which has also kind of fed into my nutrition, because I'm able to take that time in the morning to just slow down and have breakfast and like read my Bible, have my coffee, which that time is like so important for me. And then I'm kind of a snacker. So sometimes I'll do lunch, but sometimes I'll just like have some nuts at 11 a.m. because I need something to hold me over, but I'm not really that hungry yet, or like 12. And then I usually end up having lunch around 2:30. And then, so I really have like breakfast and dinner and then maybe something in between. So I think it's interesting seeing, like, looking back and being like, man, little did we know.
Right. Like you said, yes, you sometimes you can't be too prepared. Like, you can't plan every single thing, but without a plan at all, you will fail. It's just right. Like, if you don't have a guideline in order, like if you don't have some kind of general organization to the meals that you are going to consume, you're just going to eat whatever's in front of you. And that's where you know, it's great if you have fruit in front of you, or nuts or meat, whatever, but sometimes you have cheese puffs in front of you. And right. If you know, like if you don't go into it with a plan, like, okay, this is generally what I'm going to eat for breakfast this week. This is generally what my lunch is. This is my dinner. Like, you know, prep as much as you can up front. And if you have a crap day and you eat your dinner and everything's planned, but you know what, you really want a glass of wine, or you really want a piece of chocolate, but it's not already written down in your plan, okay, that is totally fine. Eat the chocolate, have a glass of wine, let yourself live, and let yourself kind of be like, okay, because if you restrict yourself too much, you're going to wake up the next morning with chocolate in your bed and all over your face. You know what I mean? Like seriously, like if you're like, oh my God, no, I'm never going to eat goldfish again. Guess who's going to wake up at 10 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday or Sunday with goldfish crumbs all over their bed and an entire box, like I'm talking that big jumbo box, completely empty. And I'm speaking from experience, but you know, like you do have to have some kind of plan. There has to be some kind of organization. Otherwise, you're just going to go into it completely like willy-nilly, and it's not going to be organized, and it's not going to be structured. And one thing that I picked up when COVID happened, I used to count my macros in college, or I tried, and I hated it. I didn't get it. I was definitely not eating enough protein, and I could not figure out how to eat enough protein. Like it was stressful, it was annoying, I couldn't do it, and so I just didn't do it. So I just tried to like eat healthy, like a breakfast, a healthy lunch, a healthy dinner, 2 snacks. That was just kind of like the organization that I had for years. And when COVID hit, I was like, well, you know what? At the time I was doing Beachbody and I was counting those containers, and I was like, this is really that much different from me counting my macros. So I'm just going to download my FitnessPal again and just pay attention to what I'm eating. Just look at it. Just record it. Not so much like get these numbers because I want to lose weight or whatever, but just to collect some data on like what I'm eating and to try to keep it organized, try to keep it structured. Because I'm a huge meal prepper, always have been. A pandemic didn't have to bring that into my life. That's just how I've been for years. But I wasn't always recording what I was eating. So when I started to do that again, I was like, wow, I really am not eating enough protein still. I'm really eating like more carbs than I should, or, more fats than I should, not necessarily going over my calories, but going over my fats and my carbs and not enough protein. So having to kind of like look at that data, and then I also got a nutrition coach on top of doing workouts. So talking to her about different tips and tricks on how to get that protein count up, but keep my carbs and fat high. And those were something I focused on. And when I first started doing it, I will admit I was a little psychotic about it. And I was counting everything, measuring everything, like even down to like if I love goldfish and Cheez-Its. I was literally counting goldfish and Cheez-Its when I was prepping my snacks, because it was like 23 goldfish is, this much. And so I would literally count them and be like really super anal about it. But I only did that for like a month or two because I really, really, really wanted to dial in and really understand what those numbers felt in my body, the kind of performance that was better in my workouts, or the way that I felt. And I ended up losing like 11 pounds over the quarantine lockdowns because I was really, really, really counting my nutrition. And I was also running a lot because our gyms were closed and I was doing Beachbody workouts, but I was having a lot more cardio. So the weight was just dropping and I wasn't really putting more in my body than it needed. So I had lost a lot of weight. And I put a couple of pounds of that back on, but I've also been lifting since we've been back in the gym. But just getting into that routine of recording what I'm eating, and I was doing it every single day, like religiously, and now I kind of like, I still track every day, but I will kind of do it ahead of time. And when you first go into, at least for me, when I first go into like trying to get back on track and be healthy, it's like, oh well, I don't want to eat the same things over and over and over again. I just don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And you're constantly trying to come up with all of these fancy schmancy things to keep you interested in what you're eating. And then it's like, you know what? It's so much easier to just eat the same things but season them differently, and then every now and then like switch it up and have something fun. So
it's amazing what you can do with chicken and rice and vegetables.
Right.
You can make a stir fry. You can make a burrito bowl. You can make it like, there's so many different options with just seasonings.
Exactly. And like I started making like meatballs with like ground turkey or ground chicken, and
so good.
And even doing it that way. So like it's like you're just finding different ways to cook the same things but not get bored of them, and then every now and then being like, I'm gonna make this really fancy French toast that's like healthy but like not healthy, like a healthy cheat or whatever. Or like when you come and visit, or when I go and visit, we cook these like fun meals that take the evening to cook. It's not so much a meal prep thing, but on a general like week to week basis, like just trying to keep that organization and trying to keep like, yes, like for lunch I'm going to have salad with chicken, a salad kit with chicken. For dinner I'm going to have chicken or turkey or salmon with a starch and a vegetable, and just keep it simple, because the more complex I've learned, the more complex that I've tried to make it, the harder it is. So it starts to be a little bit overwhelming because you're trying to cook all this fancy things all the time and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, just keep it simple, prep, and then have something on the weekend to look forward to. And during COVID, obviously that was a little bit difficult. because restaurants were shut down, you weren't really able to do it, but a lot of places were doing to-goes. So one thing that I would do is there's a restaurant, Mexican restaurant in Jacksonville called Taco Lu, and it's one of my favorite restaurants in Jacksonville. And, I would eat really, really good and stay within my count during the week. And then on a Friday or a Saturday, I would go pick up my to-go food, bring it back to my apartment, and I'm very blessed to live by the pool and by the beach, and those were not locked down. So I would just go sit out by the pool and eat it and call it a Friday, or a Saturday, or like I would go home to my mom's house and eat whatever my mom or my grandma was cooking, like at the house, and kind of being like, okay, during the week, Monday through Friday, to keep some kind of normalcy in my life, let me eat what I need to eat to stay on track. And then on the weekends, I can have a little bit of fun with my food, because food should be fun. And if you're not having fun with what you're eating, you're doing something wrong. It's not supposed to be this chore. It is something that you have to make a priority, but it shouldn't be a chore. Like cooking is fun, and I know not for everybody. I know the guy I'm dating he hates cooking. It's like his worst nightmare. But like, it can be very therapeutic. And even, if you're just using a meal prep company, there are tons, especially now, tons of meal prep services that will make your life so much easier, so that you don't have to stress what you're going to eat, or how you're going to eat it, or anything like that. And, and just kind of keeping that normalcy when there was no normalcy in the world was super, super important in order for me to stay sane and to like stay on track with my nutrition and get by during all this craziness.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's nice to have those like kind of perspectives of, all right, so throughout the week, I'm going to be at least intentional. I personally don't like using terms like I'm going to be good during the week and then I can be a little bad, or I could cheat on the weekend. I think that sometimes can give people the idea that
there's good and bad.
There's good and bad. But there are things that are going to be better for your body. But God made food tasty. He gave us taste buds. Like, we are supposed to enjoy it. Like, absolutely. I don't believe that we are built to be just eating plain chicken and plain rice every day of our life. Like, no. We are not designed for that. We crave chocolate because chocolate's delicious, and yes, it is a gift from God. And so
amen, hallelujah.
Amen. What are your like breakfasts like? Are you a sweet breakfast person? Are you a savory breakfast person? Do you start with like a protein shake?
So it really depends. I do work out every morning, Monday through Friday. So immediately following my workout, I do shake up a protein supplement. It's not necessarily a protein shake, in my opinion. I do use Advocare, and it's got like 2 grams of fat and 3 carbs, but like 25 grams of protein. And since I struggle with my protein count, it really helps me to drink that right after a workout. And I kind of go through phases. I am the kind of person that if I eat eggs every single day for too long, I will go to cook them one morning and I will put it in my mouth and I will literally gag. So like I have to switch it up. Like I can't eat egg whites every single day or eggs every single day. Yeah. And for the most part, it's pretty much just either going to be yogurt and rice cake, eggs and apple, or it's pears or whatever fruit I decide to have that week, or a smoothie.
But usually sweetish.
Sweetish, yeah. I mean, for, even...
I guess you're having eggs.
Well, I have eggs, but I also have fruit with my eggs. Yeah. So I do add a little bit of sweetness in there. But that's generally what my breakfasts look like. And sometimes I'll if I had like a really, really high intensity workout, and I just feel like energy depleted from it, I will eat oatmeal when I get back to my house, and I'll do oatmeal with some peanut butter and stuff like that. I really try to just kind of listen to what I'm feeling. If I always have eggs in my fridge, and I always have yogurt, and I always have oatmeal. But those are kind of the 3 that I kind of pinball back and forth with, just because they're good on macro counts, which is important for me. and they taste good, and they're simple. I just like to keep things simple.
Yeah.
What about you?
My favorites
I know you're a big oatmeal girl.
Yes, I love oatmeal. But I would say, okay, so my most common ones, if I'm like running low on time, I will go for yogurt and granola with just some frozen berries in it, or fresh berries, but usually I have frozen ones because they're cheaper. And also, I have a little hack for granola. So I always have like chia seeds and flax seeds in the cupboard. So I have those, and sometimes I'll throw them on there just to beef it up a little bit with some healthy fats and omegas. But I also get the like off-brand Rice Krispies that are literally like $1 at Kroger or Aldi or whatever. It's a huge box, and I use that because it's actually really low in sugar, and so I just use that, and then I add a little bit of granola because, first of all, granola is a lot more expensive than just like Rice Krispies, and it also tends to be very high in sugar. And so my biggest thing is I just try not to do a lot of added sugar. If I'm doing sugar, I want to either use like maple syrup or like dates or honey or something like that. I try to avoid refined sugar unless it's like I'm making cookies and I'm making unhealthy cookies. I am not trying to make them better. I am making Toll House chocolate chip cookies, and we are doing this.
Cookie time.
Cookie time. Exactly. I will do some different oatmeal things. Sometimes I'll do like chocolate peanut butter or something like that, just with like cocoa powder and maple syrup and peanut butter. But the other two that are like kind of wild cards that I don't do, I probably do maybe once a week, is I'll either do like my 3-ingredient banana pancakes, which I love so much, and then sometimes I'll make like either a green or an orange smoothie.
It sounds so refreshing.
What's really funny is it took me a while to realize that my orange smoothie and my green smoothie are the same. It's the same ingredients, it's just a different vegetable in it. So it just depends what I have in the fridge.
There you go.
And what my body's craving too. But those are kind of my go-to brekkies. I love breakfast. I am totally a breakfast person. It's my favorite meal, I think, of the day.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, I love breakfast. I love brunch, but that's different than breakfast.
Oh girl.
But I mean, yeah, I just kind of like want to just get my day going. So it's like I just want what's quick so I can eat it really quick, and then lunch, same thing, like something that I can just eat quick, and step away from the desk for a minute, throw together really quick, and then eat it, and then get back to work. And that's the simplest thing for me on the lunch aspect. Is just getting like salad kits are your friends. Always get a salad kit, and then I always get a bag of spinach, and then I just do like a cup of the salad kit lettuce, a cup of the spinach, whatever the kit came with, you know. I will be starting a cut soon. Actually, as soon as I get back. Right now we're recording this, I'm in Austin, Texas on a bachelorette weekend, so this was my last shebang before I start a 6-week cut. You know, typically I would use like whatever came in the salad kit, but when I do cuts, will just get like a mix instead of a kit, so that way I'm not like wasting any croutons or like anything that extra that comes with the salad. And then I just cook like 2 chicken breasts and chop them up. Keep them in a Tupperware, scoop up like 6 ounces of chicken, put it in the salad, call it a day, and then just eat that real quick. And then I always love like drink. I found like I'm obsessed. Like one of my COVID obsessions has been drinking Zevias.
Yeah, you love Zevia.
I love me some Zevia.
The root beer one.
That's so good.
You'll always have the root beer Zevia in your fridge.
It's so good. It's so good. And like I don't really have much of a sweet tooth, but it does. I do like to eat something savory and then have something sweet. So whether that's like fruit or whatever, like a watermelon or cantaloupe or something like that, that's very sweet to me because I don't really have a big sweet tooth. But you know, instead of like eating something sweet, I'll just drink one of those Zevias, and like I'm not a huge soda person, so it's kind of like makes me feel like, oh, I'm drinking soda, but it's really just sparkling water that tastes like soda.
Yeah.
You know, so I'll do that, and then maybe have like some pistachios or something, because I do like when I go back to work, I'll sit at the desk and I'll still be like wanting to like munch a little bit.
Yeah.
But just kind of back to again, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I like to keep it simple. So it's just like anything that's going to be simple and quick and effective and nutrients. That's kind of like where, especially from counting my macros again, that's kind of like how I've gotten to, but it also has a good flavor. Like I'm not just cooking chicken breast with nothing on it. You know, like I'm using garlic powder or onion powder or like Tony Satrin's like Cajun seasoning. Like I put that on everything and have since I was probably 3 years old. Like, you know, it's a family tradition, but doing that or adobo or, you know, anything that is going to be a good flavor, lower on sodium. Got to be careful with some of those seasonings because just because they don't have any calories or fats or carbs, they could have like 5,000 milligrams of sodium, and that is like that's
which is bonkers. Yeah,
not good for you. But you know, just kind of keeping it simple in that aspect.
Mm-hmm. I really wish I liked salads. I'm like really picky when it comes to salad. I want it to be really hearty. Like it needs lots of like chicken and avocado and dressing and nuts and like just I need a really beefy one. Mm-hmm. And usually if I want something beefy, I don't want a salad. Right. So I love warm vegetables. Like I love roasted veggies so much.
You do love your roasted veggies, and they're so good.
Your girl loves some roasted veggies. But yeah, I like lunch wise, I'm really, really quick. Like once I'm working for the day, I don't really take a lunch break most times. I'll give myself like 10 minutes to go like grab something and whip it up really quickly. But like I usually do like eggs for lunch, and I'll just do like eggs with cheese or avocado on toast with spinach. I'll either do like that or like a tuna and like crackers or something like that. I just do something really quick and then like a piece of fruit. And then in the afternoon is when I get kind of munchy like you do. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, I'm trying to think of any other like my favorite kind of go-tos, but those are or leftovers. I have leftovers all the time.
Yeah.
So it's just like whatever I made the night before, I will literally just either throw it in the microwave or throw it in the pan and heat it up and just get back to work, which is probably not the healthiest. I try to like sit at the table and eat. Lunch is the only time that I'm not as good about that, but that's okay.
Yeah,
baby steps.
Where everybody's kind of transitioning into this like work from home, you know, remote work aspect. So, you know, sometimes your kitchen table could be where your office is,
yeah,
you know, or like the couch, or, you know, it's not necessarily just like an office or a desk. So it's really, I mean, yeah. I just try, there are some days when like I'm running behind. So like, I kind of feel like I have to eat my lunch in front of my desk, in front of the computer. But for the most part, like it takes me 5 minutes to eat. You know what I mean? Like if I'm just focusing on eating, so it's like I can sit down, eat this meal, and then go back to work. Like, you know, I don't necessarily have to lollygag for an hour or whatever, but it's like, let me put it together, let me eat it, and I'll go back to work, because it takes me longer to eat it if I'm sitting in front of my computer, because we are on a computer. I need my hand for the mouse. I need my hands to type. So it's like I take a bite and then I can, take a bite, blah, 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 interrupt what I'm doing, take a bite, go back, you know. So it's just better to just make your lunch, eat it, go back to work. Like, don't sit back in front of your computer and then, like, you know, I mean, if that's what you can do, you know, whatever. But if you're eating a smoothie for lunch, okay, that makes a lot of sense. But it takes you 5 minutes to eat. Mm-hmm. You know, so it's like I just have to remind myself of that sometimes. Like, I can eat this really quick and be done eating and then focus on work, or I could stop every 3 seconds when I'm in a flow to take a bite. You know, like you know, being able to try to keep that path of productivity going on, and then you know, I know you are more of a snacker than I am. I snack on the weekends. That's kind of more, but like during the week, you know, I'd really just try to keep it structured. Breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner. And if I want to do like a quote unquote dessert, sometimes that might be yogurt. You know, I pretty typically will eat yogurt every day, whether it's a snack or breakfast. That just kind of depends on the day. Yeah. But my afternoon snack is, if it's not for breakfast, it's yogurt.
Yeah. My afternoon snack will sometimes be like a couple spoonfuls of cottage cheese, which I know a lot of people think is nasty, but I love it. I love it. And so I grew up eating cottage cheese. I've always liked it. And so I just have that, and it's good because it's like really high in protein. And so that's my, like, I'll either have that, or so I tend to snack most in the afternoon. So I try to like wait to have breakfast until like 10 or 9:30 or 10, and then I have lunch at like 2, and then I only need like one snack between lunch and dinner, as opposed to snacking literally all day.
Right.
But speaking of, what are some of like the biggest challenges that you face with your nutrition?
So my biggest challenges with nutrition really revolve over the mental, emotional side of eating. I've never had a problem eating a vegetable. I've never had a problem eating chicken. I've never had a problem with trying new foods. I love food. I love to cook, and I'm a pretty good cook. So the idea of eating healthy or organizing the food is not intimidating to me at all. It's just like, okay, like we're going to organize it. We're going to eat. Cool. The biggest challenge I have is the emotional aspect. And we are going to have an episode on this later in the season where I really, really open up and get uncomfortable with you guys, to really share some of my personal issues and things that I've overcome with emotional eating. But that has been my biggest challenge. That is been a very, very, very slow but sure road to recovery, I guess. I don't know. Road to getting through with that. But
to getting past it, yeah.
Yeah, that is really my biggest challenge. And because I'm always looking at new things to eat. I'm always getting advice. I meet with my coach once a month, So a lot of the I don't like ever using the word easy, but setting myself up for success is the easy part. Get meal prepping, organization, all that's the easy part. But the hard part for me is if I do have a bad day, or if I am PMSing, or if I'm having a problem, is I will blindly eat a whole bag of potato chips and not even realize it. But that really is my biggest struggle, or has been my biggest struggle, something that I've really had to actively pursue, getting over that and pushing through that. What about you? What is something that you think is a really big challenge when it comes to your nutrition?
Mine is actually the same. I have never personally dealt with the like purging aspect of that, and I'm grateful for that, and I cannot imagine your struggle. But I also tend to binge if I'm feeling emotional. I emotional eat so bad, and so if I am stressed out, I will eat an entire pack of cookies or whatever. So I try not to have a bunch of junk in my house, and try to I noticed that helps, where I'll have like one treat in the house, that whether it's like a bar of chocolate or something that I can kind of nibble on throughout the week, as opposed to if I have an entire thing of cookies, if I have a bad day, I'm going to eat that entire thing of cookies.
Yeah.
And so, and you know what, like if I really want something sweet, I always have stuff to bake, and so I can bake a batch of cookies or something if I want to, and just make a smaller amount. But that's a pretty big struggle for me as well. I know some people, when they get emotional, like they can't eat, but I'm the complete opposite. Like the only time that I ever had that was when I had I went through a breakup, and that was the first time in my life I'd ever been like so upset that I couldn't eat.
Right.
And it was only that one breakup. It was like 5 years ago. And so, I mean, every other time I just want to eat everything. And then it just makes me feel like crap later.
Well, on the opposite spectrum of that, what are things that make you feel pretty confident in your nutrition journey?
I feel like my trying to decrease the amount of added sugar that I have where I'm not eating that many pre-prepared foods. Most of the stuff that I have, I make, except for maybe granola, but I try to find, I know granola is not that hard to make, but it's really not that much cheaper to make it than it is to buy it.
Right.
And so I just try to find one that's a little bit lower in sugar, and like I was saying earlier, kind of find a way to hack it to make it a little bit healthier and use less of it. But that has actually really helped me with my mentality, because I'm like, I can still have sweet things if I want sweet things, you know, but at least I'm having I'm having banana pancakes where the pancakes, the only sweetener in them is it's a banana with oats and egg. And then, so I do that, which really helps me. And I also think that just having, like, again, as we were saying, I feel like I'm a broken record, but just trying not to have a ton of unhealthy foods in the house has helped me a lot. I always have a treat, because I know if I don't have one, then there's a good chance that I'll go out and, like, I'm really craving chocolate, so I'll go out and buy brownies or something like that, or I'll go to Kroger and I'll get a cake and split it with, like, one of my friends, or I'll just eat a bunch of cupcakes. And I kind of put that off by having healthy options. Like, I've made this with you a bunch of times. I'll do a date stuffed with peanut butter and topped with chocolate chips, and they're so good. Tastes like a Snickers. I swear it tastes like a Snickers. If you actually, like, melt the chocolate and dip it in there and then put it in the freezer, or put some peanut butter in there, then actual peanuts, then it really tastes like a Snickers. But I am way too lazy for that. Like, I know you can do the little chocolate covered banana bites where you do, like, banana and peanut butter, freeze it, and then put melted chocolate on it. That's also really good. But both of those things, I have to, like,
they take
pre-prep, and they take time to do.
Sometimes you can't, because you have no idea when you're, like, gonna want that craving. Like, you know, like, there'll be weeks at a time that I'll go and I don't even look at a cookie, or I don't even look at something sweet. Like, I don't even care. Sure. I'm like, I don't even crave it. Like, I'm doing good. And then all of a sudden I'll be like, my body will be like, chocolate. And I'm like, oh, like, I don't have any. Like, what am I gonna do?
And a lot of the time it's around that time of the month for girls too. You're like, oh, all right, there's that chocolate craving. Guess we have a few days until that happens.
In 3, 2, 1, you're like, oh my god, the whole world starts, like, shaking. It's like, somebody give me a Toblerone stat.
Yeah. So I don't know, those are my couple things. And I also feel like I really love vegetables. I have to cook them, and because that's just how I prefer them. And so if I find, basically I just make, especially with dinners and stuff, I always make it in really big batches. So I always have leftovers for at least one lunch, which just kind of helps me throughout the week and not have to stress out about food and what I'm eating. And if it's leftovers from a decently healthy dinner, then I'm having a decently healthy lunch the next day. So it's good. What about you? What are you confident about when it comes to nutrition?
Planning.
Yes, girl. Dara is the planning queen.
Yes, I love to organize what I'm going to eat. I love to meal prep. Again, I love to cook, and I'm actually, not to sound cocky or toot my own horn or anything like that, but I am a pretty good cook. I know how to whip it up in the kitchen. I know how to make healthy food taste very, very, very good. And keeping it simple. That's a huge thing for me. I'm really good at keeping it simple, but also effective. And, you know, like, I'm also really good at, when I get advice from my nutrition coach, to actually apply it. And take the ideas, or, you know, trying new recipes on Pinterest. Like, I don't just pin a bunch of stuff because I'm bored. Like, I actually will go through and, have I cooked the 500 or 700 recipes I've pinned? No, but, you know, I will go through that sometimes and either get an idea from it and then make it my own way, not necessarily follow a recipe, but be like, okay, concept is this, then I'll try that out. But really, really good at setting myself up for success, and prepping everything, keeping things, whether I'm really being real anal about it and using my meal prep containers and prepping like that, or I'm just prepping it ahead of time and keeping everything in its separate Tupperware and then portioning it out when it's time to eat. Really, really, really good about kind of keeping my nutrition under control with my calendar. And like I said earlier, I go down to the studio twice a week, and typically almost always go out to lunch. And when we first started doing that, I was like, oh, it's just like Tuesday and Thursday. Just if we're going to this nice taco place, I'm going to get some tacos. Or if we're going to a burger place, I'm going to get a burger. Well, if you're doing that twice a week, for some people, it's every day they go out to lunch. If you're doing that every single day, that's going to add up. And that's probably where those 4 pounds came back from, after the quarantine stuff. So, just kind of being like, okay, these are the days that I know I'm going to go out to lunch. And this is what I have coming up this weekend. So when I go to lunch, rather than just get a burger and fries and be like, well, it's because I'm out here, I will be that person that orders a salad with grilled chicken, or just get a side salad and add salmon to it, or whatever. And that doesn't make you weird. That doesn't make you whatever. It's just like, okay, like I know that I have these things coming up, and staying, I know you can't plan for everything. You can't 110% to a T organize how your week is going to go from a day-to-day basis. And I know that, and I'm aware of that. But to at least have a plan and have your set yourself up for success, that's super, super, super important. Because then when something does get thrown at you, unexpectedly, like, you prepare for that too. Have your week set up. I count my macros. I know that's not for everybody. Some people use the plate method. Some people just use intuitive eating, and that's fine. That's for them, whatever. I just macros. I will preach that. I will always follow that because it's what works for me. And I love, I love finding out different ways that I can fit foods into my macros, but I also expect something to go haywire. I expect
you're not expecting it to be perfect,
right? I expect
something every time.
Yes, I will expect something to kind of throw a wrench in my week, but that's okay. And giving myself some grace on that, and being like, okay, well, if because this happened, and I didn't know that it was going to be so and so's birthday at the office, and I had a piece of cake. Eat the cake. It's someone's birthday. You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah, and don't feel bad about it, or don't eat the cake. You know what I mean? Like, if you're like, well, I'm really trying to fix my goals right now, I don't want to do it, you can still sing happy birthday, put on a party hat, give that person a hug, and then go back on your way. You know what I mean? And a lot of the times I feel like people think well, this is in front of me, so I have to eat it. No, you can say no. Do whatever is going to feel right for you. But I think, essentially just planning, keeping it organized, having a good idea of how your week is going to go nutrition-wise, and then expect wrenches to be thrown at you, and expect there to be some way that you're going to have to dodge or pivot or reorganize or regroup or something like that. And I feel very, very, very confident in that aspect. So.
Right. As opposed to planning every single meal, you plan 2 out of 3 meals.
Yeah.
And, if something happens, then that third meal is the one that changes. And then you still have 2 that you can eat, or making 4 dinners instead of 5 or whatever.
Yeah. And not looking at it like, oh, I have to count my macros. I have to do this. If you look at it as a chore, that's what it's going to be. A chore. If you look at it as an opportunity to set yourself up for success, that is what it will be. And being excited about it, like, oh man, I don't have to wonder what I'm going to eat for dinner tomorrow night. I already know. It's already in my fridge. It's ready to go. I just got to grab it and go. And I, obviously I don't have children, so I know that can kind of throw things off too, but I also know a lot of people that have children that meal prep and make that a priority and prep their food, prep their kids' food. And have that organization. As long as you are as prepared as you can be on your end, then then you're doing everything right. You're setting yourself up for success. It's better it's better than not being ready, not better than not having, what if you have a long day and you don't feel like cooking? But you have intentions of this great meal, but you didn't prep it, and you come home from a long day of work and you're just like, well, it'd just be easier for me to stop at Chick-fil-A. You have to also be careful with that, like, oh, like, it's okay, I'm just gonna eat this. Like, okay, well, if you're saying, okay, I'm just gonna eat this every single day, then you're
not going to reach your goals.
Yes, exactly. And you have to keep your goals in mind. Like, you have to, like, yes, you want to be able to have a healthy relationship and a healthy mindset about what you're eating. But if you're saying, oh, well, like, I'm listening to my body, but your body is quote unquote telling you to eat chocolate every single day or to eat fried chicken every single day, like, your goals you might still get there, but it's going to take you an extra 3 months. Whereas if you would just use your treats as what they are, as treats, and organize that, and it's not a cheat day, it's a cheat meal. People get that mixed up all the time. It is not a cheat day. The cheat meal is that one meal, and then you go about doing everything else normal. You still, if you're still tracking, you track, or if you whatever. It's not like, oh, for breakfast I'm going to have this, for lunch I'm going to have this, for dinner I'm going to have this, and and then you're exceeding your calories like 5 times over, and that's going to set you back. So that's another thing too, like, yes, you don't want to deprive yourself from something, but that doesn't mean that you can never eat it. It just means that you're organizing when you are going to eat those kinds of food. Like those diets like keto and all the other things that are out there that, like, you can't eat this, you can't eat that, blah 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 blah, restrict. Those aren't good, because that is your mind, that's you telling yourself that you cannot have something. And what do we do when we're told that
you can have something again? You are going to binge on it, and you will say, "Oh my gosh, bread!"
Yeah.
And you will go and have an entire loaf of bread.
Absolutely.
100%.
So, I think the moral to the story is just, keep it balanced, listen to your body, eat for the most part. Try to pay attention to what you're eating, you know what I mean? Like, don't eat a lot of processed food. Don't eat a lot of food with added sugar. Try to keep things natural. Make sure you're getting enough protein, and just make sure that it's balanced. If the macro thing isn't for you, the plate method is a really, really, really good method to follow. And, Ellen is really good about just being kind of like a muncher, in the sense of somebody who it's almost like she breaks up her meals in different, like, I like breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner. Mm-hmm. Ellen is like breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner, lunch, and that's fine. But that's part of the journey. It's all about figuring out what is best for you personally, because Ellen is not me. I am not Ellen. So what works for Ellen does not work for me, because that girl eats a lot of toast, and I can't eat that much toast. But, but what works for me is not for Ellen. She doesn't like to count her macros. That's not her MO, and that's totally fine.
I also don't need as much protein as you do. Mm-hmm. And so I don't worry as much about beefing up my diet with protein, because I'm not doing heavy weightlifting like you are.
Yeah. So, it's got to be finding about what works best for you. And we really hope that this season coming up, all about nutrition, different aspects, different opinions, different viewpoints of how to go about attacking your nutrition. That's what this season is really going to be for y'all. And we're so excited to share it with you. And if you have any questions along the way, always feel free to reach out. But I think that this will be very helpful. And I think it will also be motivating, because I know that tackling on your nutrition can be a little scary. It can feel like it's a lot more work than it actually is, honestly. And I know from being on the outside looking in, it looks tough. It looks like a lot of preparation has to go into it. It looks like a lot of mentality has to go into it. And yes, that's true, but it's not as tough as it seems. It's not as much work as you might think it is. It's a priority. And if you are willing to make it a priority, it just becomes second nature. And then each week after each week after each week, it just becomes a part of your routine, and then becomes a part of who you are. And, you know, I think that this will be a really good opportunity for y'all that are listening to really learn something and feel encouraged and motivated and not discouraged or feel like you can't do this, because you can. You can do it. 100% you can.
Yeah, and I really think you'll enjoy this season, because there is not one person here that is going to come in and tell you to restrict, to cut your calories, or to cut out carbs, or to cut out fats. None of the dietitians or nutritionists that we have talked to are saying that. It's all about balance and finding what works for you. Mm-hmm. So we are so excited to share all of this with you. We love you guys so much. We think you're gonna learn a ton, and we will see you next week for episode 2 of Beyond Broken Hungry.
Get your nutrition on. Thanks again for tuning into this week's episode. We really hope you enjoyed it. If you aren't already, be sure to subscribe to Beyond Broken Hungry wherever you get your podcast, so you can be notified every time a new episode drops. It would also mean the world to us if you rate, review, and share the podcast too, so more people can join the tribe. Follow us on social media at Beyond Broke and Hungry to interact with us and see how we're stumbling towards wellness one day at a time.